How's it going, guys? You may have remembered a few weeks ago I did a Q&A video on my channel, and today I want to show another Q&A that I filmed at open houses recently at UGA. And in it are two other veterinary students who are going to be talking about vet school life and how to get in. And if you have any interest in veterinary medicine or how to get into vet school or what vet school life is like, I really encourage you to watch this video because there's a ton of really good information in it that I really think will help you. So I'm going to play a short little sizzle reel at the beginning just to get you hyped up or excited and show you some of the main key points that are talked about in this video. But like I said again, I really hope you guys watch the whole thing because they did a really good job with this presentation. So without further ado, here it is.
I'm Bridget Savitske, class of 2020. This is Andy, he's in the class of 2019. Alright, so we want to debunk some myths. Andy and I heard a lot of myths going into vet school. Everyone's screaming in your ear what they think is the truth about it, but hopefully we can shed some light on what the truth really is. So myth number one, you have to major in something biology related. You don't. Major in something that you love.
A couple of my friends were art majors, history majors, and are still in vet school. And another big question that a lot of people kind of don't understand correctly is that you actually don't have to finish undergrad to come to vet school. You can go to vet school never having finished your college degree. Cool, so I'll let you talk about the GRE.
For those of you who aren't familiar with the GRE, it is the SAT on steroids.
With kind of what we're going to hit on with GPA, GRE, and experience, those are like the three pillars that the vet school is going to look at. So if you are, let's say the GRE doesn't go that well, have a good GPA and good experience to kind of balance that out.
So we're going to show some statistics in a minute, but before that, what is an average? This means that it's right in the middle of the road. There are people above that and there are people below that. And so even if the average says it's here and maybe you're over here, that's okay. It's an average. It is not a mandatory number that you have to have. If you are in the process of applying or you're considering it soon in the future, or maybe you're in high school and it's gonna be coming down the road in a few years, I would say you're gonna hear one person screaming in this ear and another person screaming in this ear, just everything you need to do, and oh, you did that wrong, and you have to have this, by the way, oh, you'll never get in without that, and just, you have to sift through the good and bad advice. And you know, like two horses that are pulling a carriage, they have blinders on them, and you have to put those blinders on and keep the focus, stay on course, and just because someone says it doesn't mean it's true. So just bear that in mind. Just do you, focus and do your best, and that's really what matters.
With that being said too, just because you have a 4.0 and a perfect GRE score and a lot of experience, that does not guarantee you access into vet school. A lot of it is, do they want to see what kind of person you are? Like, are you more than just academics? And like having a 4.0 absolutely helps. Having a really good GRE score is good too, but it doesn't guarantee you a seat in school, which I think is kind of a really important thing to say. If you don't get in, it's not the end of the world. It happens. There's people in my class who got in their first try, there's people who didn't, but then there's also people who tried 4, 5, 6 times to get in and who don't quit. I think what's important to remember is that just because you didn't get in the first time, you have a year between the next application cycle to improve yourself, whether that be through experience, whether that be through retaking the GRE or retaking some classes that you maybe didn't do so well to help your GPA get back up. But what's important is that don't let one time not getting discourage you, because if you want this, which is, you wouldn't be sitting here if you guys didn't care. This is a great profession to be in, and like I don't regret being in vet school for a second, and I'm happy here.
Okay, welcome to Open House 2017. This is the Q&A session. I'm Bridget Savitske, class of 2020. And this is Andy, he's in the class of 2019. So hopefully we can clear up some questions you may have, clarify a few things, and give you a few fun facts about the school as well. A little bit about me. I am a double dog, graduated here from UGA, but I didn't start out here at UGA. I started actually at Georgia Tech, majoring in meteorology. And by my junior year of college, I realized it wasn't for me, and I would much rather be a veterinarian than a weather girl. So I came here, BS in avian biology, even though I will not be doing birds. And right now I'm mixed animal medicine. That just means I don't know what I want to do with my life, really. So I just love everything. I love horses, cows, dogs, cats. But we will see in the future what happens. I have an interest in oncology though, so maybe that'll shape where I'm headed. Here at school, I'm involved in the student chapter of the American Veterinary Medical Association Executive Board, and I deal with corporate interactions, and I'm also a student ambassador. Outside of school, just to make a few pennies so I can eat during the week, I work as a veterinary assistant. And so that is Jewel. She is my life outside of school, and she was not able to be here today, so I brought her to you in this presentation.
So a little bit about me. My name's Andy. I'm in the class of 2019. I'm an out-of-state student because I'm from Maryland. I got my Bachelor of Science in Biology from Towson University. I'm definitely a small animal. Don't know too much about horses. I have a really strong interest in cardiology and surgery. I just started doing surgery this year with a class, and it's really piqued my interest, which I think is definitely something I'm going to want to pursue. At school, I'm a Purina student representative. Like Bridget, I'm also a student ambassador, and I'm the treasurer for the Canine Club. Outside of school, I work as a tech at a hospital I've been at for quite a while. That's Poe, that's my Cavalier. He's in reading for dogs if you want to go say hi later, so feel free. Really kind of what's important to us right now is if you have any questions during this time, there's absolutely no stupid questions. If at any point you need to interrupt, please feel free. This is a conversation, not a presentation. So yeah, let's get started with what we're going to cover today.
Yeah, just a little outline. We're going to talk a little bit about undergrad. What are the people who are looking at your application going to be looking for that you did in high school, undergrad? Hopefully we can clear up any misconceptions and also give you more of an idea of what they are looking for. We're going to look at GRE, talk about that a little bit. What do you need for veterinary experience? What kind of experience? We're going to look at some statistics. And finally, you get a glimpse into our lives as vet students, which is not too exciting, but hopefully you'll find that interesting. All right, so we want to debunk some myths. I know Andy and I heard a lot of myths going into vet school. Everyone's screaming in your ear what they think is the truth about it, but hopefully we can shed some light on what the truth really is. So myth number one, you have to major in something biology related. No, you don't. Major in something that you love. So Andy's going to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So kind of what I want to show with this is there's an array of universities here. And so just out of curiosity, who has heard of Towson University? Okay, one person. That's what I was kind of expecting, Towson too. So no one's heard of it, but I'm in vet school, which is that's kind of like the point I want to make is it doesn't matter the name of your school. It doesn't matter where you go. You want to go somewhere where you're going to do well. So there's a big misconception that you have to go to Georgia to get to vet school, which is, it helps for Georgia residents because there's just a lot of people who went to Georgia, they know the professors, and it's helpful. But with that being said, you don't have to get boxed in and say, like, I must go to University of Georgia to get into UGA's vet school. Another big misconception is that you have to be a biology major or some sort of animal science or some sort of science major. That's actually very false. A couple of my friends were art majors, history majors, and are still in vet school. Now with that being said, they still have to hit their prerequisite classes, and I'll go into what that means in a second, but basically do what you're going to love. Don't feel you have to put your whole life towards getting into vet school in undergrad. In undergrad, take what you want, and if science is that, do it. I personally love science, but my favorite class in undergrad was actually my drawing class that I took, so it's nothing science related there. But with that being said, if you do go to a science major, you're going to hit your prerequisites naturally. And what that means is, let me just show you. So coming up here are your prerequisite courses. So I would say don't write these down. Don't take a picture of them. They're on UGA's website, so you can find them there. Any school that you want to apply to, they'll be listed. But they're the same for the most part for most classes, like taking a physics, taking a chemistry, some sort of biology. It's helpful to show Georgia, one, that you can handle science courses and that you can translate the science in undergrad to science in vet school. And another big question that a lot of people kind of don't understand correctly is that you actually don't have to finish undergrad to come to vet school. You can go to vet school never having finished your college degree. And a couple of vets I work with actually are just veterinarians and never got their BS, which is pretty interesting. Now, with that being said, some people go and get their master's, get their PhD before they go to vet school. And that's great, but other people didn't even finish college, which I think is always kind of a surprise to me. Cool, so I'll let you talk about the GRE.
Yeah, so GRE, it really, for those of you who aren't familiar with the GRE, it is the SAT on steroids. So it is required for admittance. Vet schools used to have a VCAT that you had to take, like the MCAT for human medical doctors. That was done away with. Now we take the GRE. This is something that I felt I needed to prepare for. It's going to be on a case by case, and however fits you. There are a lot of things available, a lot of resources available for you to utilize to prepare you for this exam. I personally took it twice. I think 2 is a good, for me it worked because I wanted to get a flavor of what it was about and then feel more comfortable about what I was about to tackle the second time. But again, it's like whatever works for you. I think I took Princeton Review. I did a Princeton Review book to prepare for it. Andy took a course.
Kaplan.
Yeah.
So kind of just talking about like what the GRE is a little bit. So saying that similar to the SATs is very true. It's going to test you on 3 basic areas. It's going to be math, verbal, which is like English, and then a writing. And so you really kind of want to focus on, like for me, I didn't really want to take the GRE, but you have to get into vet school. So I took a course to force myself to study because I knew I wouldn't otherwise. And the very first practice test I took, I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. And the way you score is in percentiles. So like the 99th percentile is like the highest that you can get. And the very first test I took in math and English, I scored in the 10th and 12th percentile, which is like, oh my God, like this is going to be way worse than I thought. With that being said though, it's just because I didn't try. And I took it as a joke. So with kind of what we're going to hit on with GPA, GRE, and experience, those are like the 3 pillars that the vet school is going to look at. So if you are, let's say the GRE doesn't go that well, have a good GPA and good experience to kind of balance that out. But we'll keep talking about it. So just, she said Princeton Review, I took a Kaplan course, any of those things. You can just Google like GRE review things and they're helpful. And with that being said, you don't even have to do that. If you're great at studying on your own, you can do that too.
All right, myth number 2, you need thousands of hours to get into veterinary school. Well, that's not true, and I'll tell you why. Me personally, I told you guys I didn't start out in veterinary medicine. I used to be a meteorology major, so I didn't know I wanted to do this until my junior year of college. I had 0 hours coming in, and a lot of people, they had been getting veterinary hours since they were infants, and so it really isn't necessary to have thousands of hours. You need a minimum of 250 so to qualify you to get in. That being said, it's still good to get a few more, just so that you're competitive, because there are some people that have a lot of hours. So you want to make sure that you still show that you got some good experience. More importantly, I would say quality over quantity. Thank you. You want to diversify your portfolio. You want to make sure that even if you're just interested in small animal medicine, you don't even know what a horse is, all you ever wanted to do was cats, you still want to just expose yourself to the separate niches of veterinary medicine. Go shadow a mixed animal vet, ride in his truck for a couple weeks. If you're able to go shadow someone at a zoo, whatever you can get, and don't be afraid to ask them, because a lot of these veterinarians are very used to being asked if students can shadow them, and so they really don't mind. And if you're turned down the first time, keep asking. Here it says it shows a lot of the different things that you can get your research, your experience in: small animal, mixed animal, large animal, lab animal. Research at school and undergraduate, it's not required. However, it does look pretty good. And even if you don't like it, like research is not for me. I did it a little bit in undergrad, but I checked it off my list, and I knew for sure, okay, now it's not for me, and I didn't know before. And I think that's also what they are looking for, is that does she really know that she doesn't want to do this? I know she knows what she wants to do, but does she really know why she doesn't want to do something else?
Yeah, I think Bridget made a lot of really good points there. So again, stressing a minimum of 250 hours, that's truly what it says is a minimum. I would definitely aim for more than 250. And with that being said, that's 250 hours you can hit in a summer. Like one summer, that'll be done. She's made all great points on small, large animal. For me, I knew I was going small animal, and I've stayed small animal through vet school, but I did ride around with a horse vet for a little while. It wasn't much experience, but it was enough to say like, okay, I definitely want to do small animal. And with that being said too, I did a week at a zoo. And it's just, what I found is, don't be afraid to get a no. Like I didn't want to do zoo med, but I wanted to be exposed to it. So I figured, hey, I'll ask around. If they say yes, great. And then if I don't get in, then okay, it's not going to hurt. Research is another thing. Similar to Bridget, doing research told me it's not really something I'm interested in. But with that being said, it's one more thing that you can have been exposed to. So it's like, yes, I do like doing this, or no, I don't. And vet schools, it doesn't hurt you to have it. It's not going to be like, oh, this person did research, instantly get in. And one point that I think is really important to make is having your veterinary experience be under the supervision of a vet. So what that means is, like, if you're just working in a kennel, nothing wrong with that, but that's animal experience and not veterinary experience. So what that means is veterinary experience means that you worked not necessarily underneath, but you have a vet with you, like whether you're a veterinary assistant, a vet tech, or riding around with a vet. It just has to be done with a vet for it to count. And a big thing like that Bridget preached on too was just like having diversity of experience, but like what they want to see, like if you know you're going to be small, have your experience in small with like a little salting of other areas. This is kind of just like a keep in mind slide, kind of just rehashing what we've been talking about. With the experience, I think the big thing is quality and not quantity. So like you can have all the hours, but you really want to have your hours in what matters. So let's talk about myth number 3. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have heard of Student Doctor Network? Okay, good. One person. So what I will say is if you haven't heard of this, don't look it up. The main reason I put this in here is just because for me, this is something pre-vet school I was on all the time. And it's basically a forum of people posting their stats, and it's all the 4.0 kids and who have perfect scores of everything. And it's just it makes you feel really bad about yourself. So just don't go on there. So yeah, do we have any questions so far? Please feel free to ask.
Yeah, interrupt us at any time. And I'll just go back to that point real quick that Andy was talking about. If you are in the process of applying, or you're considering it soon in the future, or maybe you're in high school and it's going to be coming down the road in a few years, I would say you're going to hear one person screaming in this ear and another person screaming in this ear. Just everything you need to do, and oh, you did that wrong, and you have to have this, by the way. Oh, you'll never get in without that. And you have to sift through the good and bad advice. And like 2 horses that are pulling a carriage, they have blinders on them, and you have to put those blinders on and keep the focus, stay on course. And just because someone says it doesn't mean it's true. So just bear that in mind as you continue in your career pursuit. Myth number 4, you have to have a 4.0 and a 170 verbal and quantitative on your GRE to get into vet school. I think Andy just touched on that too before. That is not true. Yes, you want to have a competitive GPA. You want to show that you accomplished a lot in school, that you really worked hard. But just because you are not top of your class doesn't disqualify you to get into vet school. So we're going to show some statistics in a minute, but before that, what is an average? This means that it's right in the middle of the road. There are people above that and there are people below that. And so even if the average says it's here and maybe you're over here, that's okay. It's an average. It is not a mandatory number that you have to have.
And kind of going off of what Bridget is saying, like I feel like when we talk about averages, a lot of the time is if you're performing under. And so with that being said too, just because you have a 4.0 and a perfect GRE score and a lot of experience, that does not guarantee you access into vet school. A lot of it is, do they want to see what kind of person you are? Like, are you more than just academics? And like having a 4.0 absolutely helps. Having a really good GRE score is good too, but it doesn't guarantee you a seat in school, which I think is kind of a really important thing to say. So let's kind of talk about, this is my class statistics. I'm in the at-large group, but so the way this is broken down, what I'll tell you is don't look at Delaware's numbers too much and get stressed out because that's based on 2 people and 1 person at 4.0.
Yeah.
So you can figure out the other person's if you do your math right. So what I would say is, so I think Georgia, the majority of the people here are probably from Georgia, so look at Georgia's numbers and pay attention to those. But what you're going to see is the cumulative GPA, that just means your GPA through all of undergrad. Your science GPA is just the prerequisite science courses that Georgia is looking at. And your last 45 semester hour GPA is basically what would be your senior year and then the end half of your junior year. So the reason that they break it down into 3 different categories, they look at cumulative GPA to make sure that you're just a well-rounded student. They look at science to make sure that you can perform well in sciences, and then they look at your last 45 semester hour because that's typically when your hardest classes are going to be, specifically your hardest science classes. So they want to make sure that you're doing well in them. So those are like the 3 big areas that they want you to do well in. And then with that being said, it can also show, like let's say that your first semester or 2 of undergrad just don't go that well. They want you to see that you're on like an upswing because like vet school, your first semester, which is a transition, your first semester of undergrad is also a transition, where for me in like high school, I didn't study at all. And the very first test I took in college, I got a C on it. I was like, what is this? But it got better. And then for the GRE, like we've talked about, so these two scores, so like 311, 309 are your verbal and quantitative scored together. And what is cool about the GRE is they're going to take your highest score of each if you take it multiple times. So if you did really well in math the first time and got a killer score, save it, and let's say you didn't do as well in verbal, the next time you take it and you score higher in verbal, they will count your highest, which I think we learned in the last session is called super scoring, which can be helpful. Yeah, and then the GRE analytical, I don't really think they pay too much attention to it, quite honestly.
I hope not.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I think it will. Do you have anything you want to add for that?
Yeah, you did it.
All right.
So we just went over numbers. I just from this, I want to encourage you guys, don't get caught up in numbers, please. They're just numbers. So just do you. Keep the focus and do your best, and that's really what matters.
Actually, that's a really good point to make, because I think a lot of times too, for GPA, it's a number that people like to wear like a badge sometimes. And I know for me, especially once you get into vet school, no patient's going to be like, what was your GPA before you touch me? First of all, they can't talk, and second of all, it doesn't matter. But I think that's a really good point to make. And it's like, and if you do bad in, like, let's say you get a C in a class, which it happens, it's not the end of the world. I know it might feel like it at the time, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely, like, there's people who get in, like, who got a C in organic chemistry. That happens. Orgo's hard, and it's not fun, and you don't use it in vet school, so that's aside from the point. All right, so let's talk about when we apply allergy.
Okay, sure. You can, as Amy mentioned before, you don't have to finish up undergrad to apply. You can apply as a junior. We had one girl in here in the last session that actually was a sophomore and was going to apply in May. You can apply your junior, senior year of undergraduate. You can also finish up undergrad, take a year off, take a couple of years off, and come on back to school. What they do want is that they want to make sure that you have finished your prerequisites, though. So there's a few people in my class that they said, you know what, I know I'm going to be in school and be very immersed in academia for pretty much the rest of my life. I want to just go to Colorado and teach snowboarding, and so he did. And you know, if that works for you, if that's what you want to do, you know, go for it. Just because that you took a year off doesn't mean that you can't come back. What if you don't get in? If at first you don't succeed, try again. I would say even most people don't get in their first try. It is very rare. If you do, fantastic. If you don't, it's okay. You're right where you need to be. It's difficult. There are only so many seats available. There is something that you can do and get some feedback on your application, and they'll let you know what about your application just wasn't so attractive to them, and how you can improve it. So maybe that is taking a year off and going and getting some experience, or you know, so they're going to help you tailor that application according to what you need.
Yeah, I think again, just going off of what Bridget said, if you don't get in, it's not the end of the world. It happens. There's people in my class who got in their first try. There's people who didn't, but then there's also people who tried 4, 5, 6 times to get in and who don't quit. What I did for myself, I told myself I was going to apply 3 times. If I didn't get in by the 3rd, then I'm done. But that's just me, because vet school is a commitment. It's 4 years, and I kind of was thinking way later down in life. But I think what's important to remember is that just because you didn't get in the first time, you have a year between the next application cycle to improve yourself, whether that be through experience, whether that be through retaking the GRE or retaking some classes that you maybe didn't do so well and to help your GPA get back up. But what's important is to don't let one time not getting in discourage you, because if you want this, which is, you wouldn't be sitting here if you guys didn't care. This is a great profession to be in, and like I don't regret being in vet school for a second, and I'm happy here. As far as it is.
And sometimes that's what they need to see is, okay, we turned him or her down the first time, but we really like seeing that they applied again. We like seeing their name again. We like seeing their persistence, and that they want this so bad that they're willing to apply again.
So let's talk about myth number 5.
Myth number 5. All we do is play with puppies and kittens in vet school. Well, no, obviously we play with bunnies and guinea pigs too. Come on, people. Okay. Well, and we do a few more things too. This is me in lab every day. But you know, you keep plugging, you keep going on. So here's a little glimpse into a day in the life of a vet student. Brace yourself, it's really exciting. Look at everything we get to do. So just from my class as a freshman year is building the foundation. We get histology, that's when you take little slivers of tissue and look at them under a microscope. We take bacteriology, mycology, so we study fungus and prokaryotes. We take immunology, virology, building that foundation so that you get to take the way more exciting classes the next year.
So, going off of what Bridget said, the reason first year is a little bit tougher is because you're learning normal. So basically, I would describe first year almost as it's vet school, but almost an extension of undergrad slightly. It's like an undergrad vet school. And second year is where things have really started to become real. Like I actually am feeling like a doctor now. So there's basic classes like we did surgery this year. I started in ClinPath, which is where I learned how to interpret blood work. And what's really cool, so like surgery, I just got to do something called a resection and anastomosis, which is where you cut the intestines and then you sew them back together, which is something that's like 2 months prior, I had no idea like what an intestine even felt like. And then I'm doing surgery on them now, which is really cool. And I think one thing that's great about Georgia that I would promote probably more than anything is the clinicians here who are the ones teaching you are phenomenal. Like I had my hand held through the whole thing and I felt great because I knew if I needed help, she would have been right there for me. So Georgia, just the clinicians there are incredible. The classes are cool. The classes are they're fun. And this is a typical day of vet school. So this is like what people think I do. Well, my mom still thinks I play with my puppy all day. But what we actually do that's dramatic, like obviously pretty dramatic, but it's pretty accurate too. I think the amount of coffee I've consumed in the past, I don't even want to admit how much it's been. But it's been a lot.
I keep Jittery Joe's in business.
Yeah, this is free.
Yeah. So this is my typical day. You get to class at 8, and then so it's different from undergraduate for those of you who are in undergrad right now. In undergrad, you're kind of traveling across campus. Between classes, you've got these large gaps of breaks that you can go and chill, maybe go home, take a nap, come back. I sit in that chair for 8 hours a day, and with a break for lunch, granted. And so studying is very much a part of my life. I've come to accept that, and so it makes it a little less difficult to palate. But anyway, I do love studying, so it's okay. And so sit in class, study, go home, take care of the dogs, study. But something I'd like to make a point about is a lot of you sitting here are probably type A people. Most of the people in vet school are on a spectrum of type A. And what is extremely important is that you take care of yourself. Don't forget about you. It is easy to forget about you when you have all these ologies that are just being thrust in your face and you're like, what does that even mean? I have a million tests next week. What am I going to do? Well, you can put the book down. I promise it's not going to break you. And this is not just for vet students. This is for those of you who are in a rigorous undergraduate program or even in high school. I know that even from when I was in high school, it's even more rigorous now. So just take a break for you, because if I don't, then I've got this little girl that will stare at me until I do something with her, which is good. I need her to remind me, Bridget, put the book down.
So second year is very similar to first year and like what an average day is like. So typically our classes will start at 8. What's cool, especially once you get to second year, you're gonna love second year. It's so much better. It's hard. The classes are harder, but you know how to do vet school at that point, so it becomes easier in a different sense. But typically we have class from 8 to about 12. At 12 we get an hour lunch. But kind of going through what the classes are, what's weird about Georgia at least, and something I love, is that this classroom that you guys are in right now is the first year classroom. The teachers come to us. So classes are 50 minutes, you get a 10-minute break in between where you can go outside for a second or take a walk, do something, or you can sit and check email, whatever floats your boat, honestly. Lunch break, I always go home for lunch, I let my dog out and he's always happy. And then so typically for first year, the afternoon classes is gonna be one long lab, so either histology or anatomy. And in second year, it becomes more classes, so it's a different balance where it's not just being in a lab, but it's some additional classes. And I think what was hard for me the first semester is I was so used to being in class for like an hour and then having a 3-hour break and then going to another class, and that was my schedule for the day. And then in vet school, you've got class all morning and then all afternoon, and then you're still expected to study at night to keep up. But with that being said, you learn how to do it, and it's very manageable. It's hard at first. And like what Bridget said, wellness is so important. Like after school's over, I go to the gym, and I like lifting for me is something that makes me feel better. There's never been a workout I've regretted because I've gone to it and it's like, oh man, I should have really been studying there. It's important to not study all the time. And even in undergrad, like one thing I did that I wish I hadn't done is I focused too much on getting into vet school, and I kind of watched 4 years of my life just like be dedicated to getting here, and then I remembered, oh, I didn't really go to that many parties, and I don't know, I focused too much on getting here and not enough about being present in the moment, which I think is important to not lose, is that, especially in vet school. I think that's one thing that, and with that being said, vet school is not just studying. Like there's 2 veterinary fraternities, there's OTS and Alpha Psi, and I'm in Alpha Psi, and like vet schools can definitely, we can throw it down pretty hard. But it's a good time, but it's also where everyone is together, where everyone can do it at the same time, so you almost feel not guilty because there's other people partying with you, and it's like, yeah, they're doing it, so that's okay. But that's like a typical time. So let's talk about what a DVM degree can get you, because I feel like Bridget added this slide, and I think it's so important, is that it's not, being a vet doesn't mean that you are just treating animals. There's so many different careers, so I'll let you kind of talk about that.
Yeah. Going off of that, all we do is play with puppies and kittens thing, doesn't happen. We actually do a lot. There's so much you can do with a DVM degree that I didn't even know until I got here. So obviously you have your classic small animal community practice career, but you can also specialize. You can go and teach at a teaching hospital, and we've got cardiology, ophthalmology, oncology, soft tissue surgery, orthopedics, you name it. The field has definitely grown a lot in the past several years as we've continued to anthropomorphize animals, which is great, and it's continually growing. So there's so many things you can do with a small animal focus. Large animal, surgery, theriogenology, that's reproduction, internal medicine. You can do mixed animal, ride around in a truck in a rural area, zoological medicine. And the non-classical things too, a DVM can do. You can go into research. You can work for the government, the CDC, the USDA. I forget often why our meat is so safe to eat. And who keeps all these foreign animal diseases out of our agriculture here in the United States? Well, it's the DVMs. It's the veterinarians that are policing that. So you can go into, as I said before, research, academia. We even have a few people here that just applied to Army Vet that got a scholarship, and now they're going to be with the Army and travel around the world and take care of animals around the world. So there's really a lot you can do with a DVM.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. This is pretty much the end of the presentation, and we're definitely love any questions that you guys might have. And I think this is a really good point. Like we're going to be in debt for a really long time, but we didn't get it in this career for the money. You did this because you love it, and if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. So I think that's a really good point to make. So yeah, what questions do you guys have?
So bad.
Yeah.
What happens after vet school? How do they prepare you to get a job?
Yeah, that's a great question. So her question is, what happens after vet school? How do you get prepared to get a job? And so the first, I'll say 2.5 years are classroom based, and then after that we're in clinics. So the first year, like I've mentioned before, is learning normal. Second year is abnormal, and then third year is prep for clinics. And what that means is you get the more advanced classes. So yes, we've learned about the heart. In second year, you start to learn what goes wrong with the heart. But then the third year is where you learn everything about the heart, like all the diseases, what breeds are more prone to get certain diseases. And then when you step into the clinics, that's where we become doctors, in a sense. Like, so we have doctors overshadowing us, but they really kind of take us under their wing, and we are the ones who are bringing in the clients. We are the ones who are really, we're not diagnosing, but it's done in a group setting. So if you've seen things like Grey's Anatomy, where they're all talking like, oh, what do you think's wrong with this person? That's basically what we will be doing at that point. And it's my roommate is just started clinics, and he is thriving. Like he said, it's so much better than being in school, because you actually are touching a patient, you're learning, instead of just reading about it, you're actually dealing with the patient itself. So from what I understand, you're pretty prepared to come out. And then after vet school's over, there's a number of different things you can do. You can go right to work, you can get an internship, and then after the internship, you can pursue a residency or anything like that. So there's a lot of different paths to take. There's no right one. But I'd say from what I understand, you're pretty ready. But it's also, any new vet is going to be scared.
Okay, I know it varies, but what do y'all think made like the defining factor of your application for each of you? Like, what do y'all think was that thing that they were like, okay, we need this person?
Parker wasn't here.
Yeah,
he could tell us.
I think what made my application stand out is just I don't want to say like the passion. My letter of recommendations, I think, were really good, which I think that's one thing I would definitely stress, is get good letters. So, and I don't know if it matters, but like there's a way you can read them or if you can waive them. Like if you're able to read the letters. I waived the ability to read the letters that I got, so I don't even know if they were good. But I'm here, so I would imagine they were decent. So I would say have a good letter, good letters of recommendation, have a good personal statement. And I think I changed my personal statement like 15 times. It wasn't like it wasn't big things. It was just I had so many different people read it, and it's like, and it was always something like it could be tweaking 2 words, and then that would be changing it. But I had a lot of people read my letter, and then just really I think a lot of vet students in general are bad at this, but sell yourself. Don't be scared to be like, this is what I did. This is why I would be good, because I hate talking about myself. That's actually not true. I really like talking. No, but like just really sell yourself. Like bring up your accomplishments and why you would be great for the position. I think that's what I would say.
For me, I think the uniqueness of my application, perhaps. As I said before, I wasn't always interested in veterinary medicine. I wanted to be an astronomer before I went to college and settled for second best in meteorology. I think that, I guess they liked that it was, this person really knows that she wants to do this because she's dabbled in so many different things. She has a very diverse portfolio.
See, that's like the thing, like a lot of my friends who, they've been pre-vet or they've wanted to be a vet since they were little, but I actually started out as pre-nursing. So
yeah, I would mention that in your application. Yeah, and for those of you who I mean, that may be your story. You knew you wanted to be a vet since you were 6 years old.
That was me.
Yeah, I mean, still, like, there's no harm in putting that. That definitely doesn't. That's not a deterrent. But find something. I just really, I believe that if you find something very unique to you, that can make you stand out. Not just as a student, but as a person, to make sure you incorporate that into your application. Me personally, and I hope this helps some of you guys who maybe are struggling with a black mark on your resume or application. I got a C in my first organic chemistry class, and I thought, I'll never get in. My chances are shot. Absolutely not. But I took the next organic chemistry class and I got a B, and then I took biochemistry and I got an A, and then I became a TA for biochemistry. And that's not to my own horn. That's just to tell you they're looking, like that black mark, you can use that to your benefit. You can say in your application, well, look what I did with it. I got better. I chose to keep on course and use that to grow. And so that's something I wrote about in one of my essays, was that I thought, okay, this is the end of the world. My career is just shot. I thought I wanted to be a vet and I thought this was going to work out. Well, you know what? It did, because I grew from it. And I talked about how I improved and how that shaped the student I am today. Yeah.
How does the classes work? Like, is it a pass-fail thing or is it an ABCD thing?
So the question was, how do classes work? It is still graded similar to undergrad. We do the plus-minus scale, so it's still like A minus B plus, stuff like that. What I have found is that coming from undergrad, it matters a lot. Like my grades intrinsically, just like it feels good to get an A. But I felt like once I've come to vet school, grades, sometimes I don't even check my test grades because it doesn't matter at this point. Like I don't study to get a grade anymore. I study to treat my patient. I think that's one thing that you kind of learn through vet school, is that the very first test I took in vet school, similar to in undergrad, I didn't do as well as I thought I was going to do. And my one classmate, who's one of my best friends, was like, if you'd gotten 3 more questions right, would that make you a better doctor? And the answer is no. It's just at that test, at that point, I thought differently than what it was. And it's really, that's how I've used that on every test I haven't liked my grade on. And it's just like, it doesn't matter. You like, for me, I don't know, like I love getting an A, it feels great, but at the same time, it doesn't matter at this point. It's just, you got to pass your class and make sure you take what's clinically important away from it. And then if you've done that, then you've done your job. And anything that you're going to learn, it will be taught to you so many times that it's like, it's going to be hard to forget it. But it is easy to forget sometimes too, because we get a lot. It's like the analogy that they use for vet school, and I think this is a great one, is trying to drink from a fire hose, which just is not possible. Like you figure we have, on average, like in second year, I've got probably 8 classes a day for 15 minutes. And to try to expect me to have everything learned from that day when I still have to have a personal life, when I still have to have time for me and to try to study, it's not possible. So you take what you think is important away and then you go from it. But But grades, yeah, the way they do grades is A, B, C, and C equals DVM too. Keep that in mind. That's a great way to kind of live.
Because at this point, like Andy was saying, it's not just about I got a 4.0 in vet school. Well, hey, guess what? I got an A on my toxicology exam. You know, it's really about are you the doctor that your client can trust? Because they're going to walk into a room and they're not going to ask to see your resume, and they're not going to ask to see your grades and your transcript. They're going to want to know, is this somebody I can trust? Is this a credible person? Is this someone that I can talk to and talk about what I'm afraid of or my concerns? So I think that once you get here, just bear that in mind, that you're studying to be a doctor, and that entails a lot more than just grades.
So there's a going off of that, I think there's a really good point to be made that I neglected to talk about earlier. What you're going to see a lot here is, like she mentioned before, ologies, and so like, that's the study of one class that you get in your first year that I think is probably one of the most important classes that we've got, and it continues to be given to us, is a communications course. And so what that is it's basically teaching you how to speak to people and like keeping your question. So I used to always speak in closed-ended questions. So like, what question? Like, and so instead of saying, do you guys have any questions, which is yes or no, I say, what questions do you have? You can't answer no to that. So I don't have any. Right, so, gotcha. So I've been using it on you, my classes that I've been learning in vet school. But it's a lot of it is like, you learn a lot of practical things that isn't just science. Like, I know for me, kind of going off of what you talked about with grades, it's like, would you want somebody who you can speak to, who can kind of dumb it down to you? Like, if you're talking to somebody, you want somebody they're using medical jargon that's like, okay, yes, I understand, and then you walk out of the room, you're like, I didn't understand a thing. Because sometimes you're just scared to ask. I know I was. There's still times where it's like, I feel like I should know stuff like, what was it, a wet cow? And I was like, I have no idea what that means. So, and I was too scared to ask because it's like, I should know this, I'm in vet school. And so Google didn't answer it for me too, so I had to ask a cow person. It just means one that has milk coming out of it. But it's like, I didn't know that.
Is it standing on the ring?
Yeah, it's like, it's a wet cow, dry cow. Like, oh. Yeah, so it's don't be scared to ask questions. Because once you get here, like, with that being said, it is like people who want to go on further, there's still, I don't want to say competition, because I feel like there is still competition between class, but I'd say my class is my family. Like Kelly,
oh yeah,
like I can tell you at least one thing about
our class is overly affectionate.
Well, this is true.
This is true.
But you figure you spend sometimes upwards of 8 hours a day with the people that you're with, so they really do become your family, and it's like, it's great. Like I don't know, I feel like I could hang out with anybody and just have a good time. I think we're good. So if you guys have any questions at the end, feel free to come up here. But thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope this helped you in some way and give you a bigger perspective of what vet school life is and some misconceptions in it. Hit that thumbs up button if you liked it, because I really want to see as many people interested in this as possible to see this. So share it with someone who likes vet med, or just hit the thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next time. Be looking out for an open house video next.